Our pursuit of the great British kipper starts here, on the east coast of Scotland. Peterhead Harbour is Europe's largest white fish port. One of their main produce is herring, the fish from which we get the kipper. Fish have been caught off this coast of Scotland for well over 1,000 years, providing the local community with food and a source of income. These days, it's a massive industry. Peterhead's trawlers catch some 8,000 boxes of fish a day, with an annual turnover of more than £8 million. Tonight, we're joining Luna Fishing on one of their 3 trawlers. Rachel, how are you?
Good, I'm afraid, Richard. I was sick on the night ferry.
I'm leaving nothing. I've got 2 types of seasickness tablets here. But now, what have you got?
Well, I've actually got the latest in anti-sickness technology. It's an armband which is meant to stop you being sick by applying pressure to your acupuncture points.
Sounds absolutely fascinating. Now, in a few hours' time, we'll be heading out to sea one of the 3 boats behind us. The Vigilant, I think, is one that we'll be on. We'll be going about 20 or 30 miles out to sea, and I've been told that we should be back in port about tomorrow night at the earliest. Luna Fishing have a seasonal EC quota of 3,000 tonne of herring per boat, in their case 9,000 tonne overall, a quota that's set to reduce by 30%. The Vigilant sets out to sea at midnight. The fishermen can often spend days at a time in pursuit of full nets. We're hoping the fish bite quicker than that. We've been at sea now for about 1 hour. I'm happy to say that it's still very calm. Most of the crew are in bed, grabbing a few hours sleep before the main fishing begins at about 4 o'clock. I'm going to head that way myself. Tomorrow, we have fish to catch.
The sun rises all over Britain, but the light in Scotland is quite unique. It makes being up at 4 in the morning worthwhile. The fishermen must have seen it all before because they're still asleep below deck. One man who's wide awake is the Vigilant's captain, the kipper skipper if you like, John Buchan. He's scanning his radar screens for signs of fishy goings-on. John, what's this radar here?
This is a sonar. It's for searching for a fish.
And how do you see that the fish are on it?
You see the echoes and the different to the stage of the colours is the strength of the shoals of the fish.
Are there any fish on there at the moment?
No, we're just seeing ground just now.
And what about this one?
This is an echo sounder. This is for looking up from the ship's bottom to the ground.
And again, are there any fish to be seen?
Yeah, there's fish along the bottom, but very tight along the bottom just now. So you just see the fish.
Can you reach them when they're there? Or?
No, we can't. We have to wait till they come together and shoal up more.
What about the seagulls sitting on the water? I saw some back there. Do they know where the fish are?
Well, they'll know where the fish is. There's a concentration of birds. They normally know where there's a good shoal of fish.
It's time for the crew's wake-up call, and guess what? There's fish for breakfast.
Stand by in the gilly, stand by in the gilly.
Stand by in the gully, stand by in the gully.
It may be a rude awakening for the uninitiated, but these men are used to it. The nets used for catching herring are simply enormous. 180 metres deep and 600 metres long. They're a far cry from the old cumbersome drift nets, which could only hold 30 tonne of herring. We've reached the era of clinical fishing, with the latest technology accurately scanning the fishing waters. Long gone are the days when fishermen were unsure what, if anything, they had on the end of their line. These massive nets behind me will trawl the ocean for some 200 tonne of herring. That's a lot of kippers on the world's breakfast table.
The nets are known as purse nets, so called because they encircle the boat and scoop up the fish before being pulled together tightly at the top. These nets have revolutionised the fishing industry since the first one was introduced in Peterhead in the 60s. They can't have been in the water more than 20 minutes before they're winched in. Early signs are it's a good catch, which should bring Luna fishing close to their quota for the season. The fishermen aren't the only ones happy with the catch. These gannets are tempted by the glittering bounty beneath the water's surface. The nets, though, thwart them in their quest for a breakfast snack. It's a good haul at the end of a good summer. Herring spawn more readily in warm waters, and spawning herring tend to shoal together in large numbers. This catch is about 250 tonnes. That's around 1¼ million herring, give or take the odd fish. The Vigilant's sister boat, the Luna Bow, has had less luck. She plans to take a shipment direct to a smoking factory down the coast in Aberdeen, so she draws alongside to allow some of the Vigilant's massive haul to be transferred. Once the siphoning's complete, the Vigilant will carry her cargo home to Peterhead. It's been a relatively quick trip. We've been at sea for less than 12 hours. Back on dry land, the boxing of the fish begins. Fish merchants and processors from all over Scotland have sent lorries to the harbour, where Luna sell their catch straight from the boat for about £135 a tonne. Well, it's not the end of the day for the fishermen. They're back out later this afternoon, and it's not the end of the day for the herring either. They're going to be going to Aberdeen to be well and truly kippered.
And after a quick change of clothes, I'm going to be continuing on the Kipper Trail by heading over to the west coast of Scotland for a faint whiff of nostalgia. But first I need to make another sea voyage, this one of a completely different nature. It's a half-hour crossing to the Isle of Bute, one of the few remaining places in the UK where they smoke kippers in the old traditional way. The Isle of Bute lies in the Firth of Clyde. It was a popular holiday home of the Stuart kings in the 14th century. The medieval castle in Rothsay reflects the island's rich history, steeped in bloodshed and intrigue. Historians believe that this castle was built in the early parts of the 13th century, and as with many old castles, there are tales of ghostly figures. Behind this wall is the Bloody Stair, where, rumour has it, a bride stabbed herself to death to escape an unwelcome bridegroom. Rather drastic, I think. But enough of the sightseeing, we've kippers to smoke. There's nothing quite like the look or the taste of a freshly smoked kipper. But no more than 100 years ago, a kipper was a smoked salmon rather than a smoked herring. Neil Ritchie hasn't been at it quite that long. His business in Rothsay started in 1955, but he's been forced to tamper with tradition. He's replacing this old gutting machine to meet the European Commission's new directives on factory hygiene. Unlike many modern smokers, Neil refuses to use colouring agents, and his brining formula he keeps very close to his Celtic chest. In peak season, he smokes over 100 stone of kippers every week and sends many of them mail order all over the world. And the world has kippers to thank for the word tenterhooks. It's where the herring are hung before being taken into the kiln. The kiln is at the centre of the battle between the modernists and traditionalists of kippering. A traditional kipperer such as Neil knows well the importance of even spacing between each rack of herring to ensure an even smoke. And once they're all in place, it's time to light the bonfire.
What makes the Rich's smoking method unique is this, an almost extinct Fraserburgh kiln, and also their choice of fuel. Oak shavings from the local whiskey distilleries.
Now laughing friends deride, tears I cannot hide. Oh, I smile and say, when a lovely flame dies, smoke gets in your
And the herring are left to be smoked overnight.
We were commercial fishermen, fishing for herring in the Clyde, and my brother and I started to get into the kippering business when this kippering place was for sale.
Do you think the British public's taste for kippers is on the wane?
I think the young persons are not eating kippers. It's mostly elderly people who buy kippers nowadays.
And is that sad to you?
It is sad because the kipper is a great ingredient. So the oil of the kipper is good for heart's disease.
You used to sell fish outside on the street. When did you stop doing that?
We used to sell fish here up to about 5 years ago outside the door at the street there. But now we're not allowed to do that for hygiene again.
So now Neil sells his Isle of Bute smokiers from a shop in the town. They say the Isle of Bute is the least attractive of the Clyde Islands. I'm not so sure.
Aberdeen, unkindly referred to as the Granite City. It has a 15th century university and a thriving dock, important in the production of North Sea oil. But oil isn't the only lucrative North Sea commodity Aberdeen trades in. These are the herring caught in the nets of the vigilant. And there's nothing antiquated about the machinery at fish processors Neptune.
This is one of the highest tech grading machines in the country. The herrings come in here, they're divided into 3 sizes. 2 and 3 are the nippers. They make it as boil in the bag fillets, but only grade 1 gets to go to the top hotels as a full-size smoked kipper. fish are thrashing about in there. You'd think they were still alive, but they're very, very dead. They've come a long way since the ocean this morning. This is their last trip that they'll take in one whole piece. By the time they come out the other end of this machine, down here, they'll have been well and truly kippered. These are the smaller fish, the grades 2 and 3. They won't their bones, they'll just become fillets. These women are feeding the machines, the gutting machines. It's a job that's traditionally been done by women because they're said to be more dexterous. The fate of the herrings was sealed this morning when they were caught in those fishing nets, but the fate of these fillets isn't yet decided. They could be left fresh, or they could become pickled and be a kipping fillet that apparently is more popular nowadays than the traditional kipper with its head. These herring have been pickled in brine and colouring agent and now on tenterhooks waiting to be smoked. This is the stage at which the herring become kippers. They're put into that kiln where they spend a good 2 hours before they're smoked. This is David Phillips. David, what is so good about one of these modern kilns?
The beauty of the modern kiln is consistency. With the old smokehouses, it depended very much on the skill of the man as to what quality product you produced. With a new computerised kiln, you get the same consistent quality product time after time.
But do you think some of the romance has gone out of the kipper now that the old smokehouses aren't used very much at all?
I think it's lost some of its traditional romance, but I think that's been replaced by people being able to rely on consistent quality. People like to buy a quality product from the supermarket, and they like consistency. That's what I think you get from this new type of kiln.
And this is the final product, Aberdeen kipper, freshly smoked. They're put into bags like these and vacuum sealed. That keeps them fresh for up to 21 days. The whole factory process might seem a little dehumanising. They do manage to get a personal detail in there. Details of where the fish was caught and by which boat. Here it was MV Vigilant, the one we were on this morning. You can't get much fresher than that.
Aberdeen is wedded to the sea, so I've come in search of a recipe that embraces the tradition of Scotland in general and the kipper in particular. Once the site of a private house, the Marcliffe at Pitfodles is now the city's top hotel. Michael Stoddart is one of the city's top chefs.
Today we're going to make a kipper mousse with the ingredients here. Kippers, whipping cream, egg white, powder gelatin. First of all, we put the kippers and poach them in some water.
Next, Michael whips up the cream.
Just bringing the cream up to ribbon stage. Now we'll place this in the fridge. Just drain off the liquid. And we put them into this food processor. Return the liquid to the pan. And turn to stove. We process this for just about half a minute. We pass them through the mesh to get rid of all the bones. Okay, that's that passed. Just put this into the bowl. and put in the fridge to cool. Now we're going to whip up the egg white in this food mixer. Take about 5 minutes. Now we dissolve the gelatin in some of the kipper stock. Just give that a good stir until it dissolves. Now we add some whiskey to the gelatin. Give it another mix. Now we get the cream and the kippers. Just give it another whipping. Is the egg white ready? Now we fold the kippers into the cream. And now we add the gelatin. Give it a good mix. And then we fold in the egg white. And with that mixed, we add a little bit of Worcester sauce. A squeeze of lemon. And a little salt. And just give it a mix again.
Michael then spoons the mousse into some ramekin dishes lined with greaseproof paper.
And these would go into the refrigerator and take about 20 minutes to set.
And these 20 minutes give me the opportunity to catch up with the hotel's owner, Stuart Spence. He's been a hotelier in Aberdeen since 1979. He's seen a fair few fish pass through his restaurant over the years. I was keen to ask him about the popularity of kippers on hotel breakfast menus.
I think probably one of the reasons that we sell kippers at breakfast time is that people are always wanting to eat kippers in hotels, rather than perhaps eating them in their own home, because they have the old-fashioned idea that kippers created a smell when you were cooking them.
Are you a kipper fan?
Yeah, I think kippers are wonderful, especially at this time of year in a nice summer on a barbecue outside. There's nothing finer than barbecued kippers. And then what we always do in this part of the country, we always start off by barbecuing the kippers first, because the kippers are full of wonderful oils and fats, which blazes into the barbecue. So as soon as we finish cooking the kippers, we then bung on the steaks and all the other stuff after that.
Now let's go back to the kitchen and see how the mousse has turned out.
We take off the greaseproof paper. And there you have it. Kipper mousse.
That looks pretty good to me, but the proof of the mousse is in the eating.